Jake, a meth addict, hasn't slept due to his excessive intake of drugs. However, he realizes the majority of the population has succumbed to a mysterious epidemic wherein falling asleep results in death. He soon meets 3 unexpected people, and they search for the answers behind the odd phenomenon. One morning, a man named Jake tries to light his glass pipe but is left frustrated when his lighter stops working. Unable to smoke his drugs, he looks for a lighter and tries to heat his pipe with different appliances but fails. He then knocks on his roommate's door, asking for a lighter, but no one replies. With no other choice, Jake goes to a convenience store that seems abandoned and wrecked. He grabs a lighter but doesn't find the store clerk, so he irritably leaves the money on the counter before leaving. When Jake heads home, he notices the city has been deserted, leaving him confused. The introverted man enjoys the empty city as he casually walks on the road and wanders in a park. Upon realizing that he hasn't seen a single soul yet, he wonders if his drugs are causing hallucinations. He then notices a foul smell and gets shocked when he sees a dead woman under the bench he's sitting on, making him drop and shatter his glass pipe. Right after, he calls 911 to no avail. He calls his father, but unfortunately, nobody answers. Suddenly, he sees a corpse in the distance, so he fearfully rushes to his family's house. After several attempts to call his family with no success, he breaks into the house and finds it deserted. He checks the master bedroom and sees his lifeless parents on the bed. Panicked, he checks his younger sister Megan's room and doesn't find her there. As he goes downstairs, he hears an emergency broadcast telling people not to sleep coming from the living room TV. When he enters the living room, he discovers Megan and her friend dead on the couch. In disbelief, Jake throws up outside and convinces himself that he's in a nightmare because of the substance he smoked. Unexpectedly, a 13-year-old boy, Sam, tells him he's awake and that this is real life, advising Jake not to sleep, otherwise he'll die. 5 days later, Sam and Jake inject each other with adrenaline to keep them awake. Immediately, they jump into a cold pool to keep their body temperature low. Afterward, Sam tells Lily and Rachel to get out of the hot tub because it could be dangerous once their body temperature rises and suddenly drops down. After they all get out of the pool, Sam tells his older buddy not to make love with Rachel because sensual pleasure can create the melatonin hormone that will make him feel sleepy. The older man assumes the kid wants Rachel, but Sam tells him he's just concerned for their safety. The two assure each other that they'll do their best not to fall asleep. Sam then worryingly asks if he'll be able to live long enough to experience making love, so Jake assures the kid that he'll keep Sam alive to experience that life goal. Shortly after, Sam asks why Jake is still awake. The man contemplates and mentions that he prefers to live despite the odd occurrences. Moments later, Sam, Jake, Lily, and Rachel ingest a handful of medications that will help them stay awake. Right after, Jake sets a timer for their next adrenaline and drinks energy drinks with the boy. Curious about how the boy survived, Jake asks Sam how the boy was still awake when the unusual epidemic began, but the boy evades the question. Suddenly, they hear Lily getting mad, who they find talking to her hallucinations due to the substances. Later, Sam checks the TV and sees a news reporter trying to stay awake. He turns off the TV and theorizes a radioactive space probe affected the Earth's atmosphere. When humans breathed in the air, it altered their brains. However, the man thinks his theory is dumb and wonders what kind of sleep-related epidemic they're facing. Jake is confident they're going to survive because humans are adaptable species. Suddenly, the two hear Rachel panicking, so they go to her and find Lily asleep on the couch. As Rachel cries, Jake rushes to get the adrenaline, hoping to save the sleeping woman. He passes it to Sam and the boy injects her, but unfortunately, Lily doesn't wake up. Helpless, an angered Rachel breaks down and checks Jake's timer, only to find out it isn't on. She insists they need a higher dosage of sugar, caffeine, adrenaline, and drugs to keep them awake. Mourning for her loss, Rachel leaves the room, and the two boys stand in front of Lily's lifeless body. Jake covers her body with a twister mat and they both pay their respects. Abruptly, they hear Rachel leave with the car, and Sam jokes they don't have to worry about making love anymore. When Sam turns back, he notices their medical bag of adrenaline is gone, so they chase after Rachel. While Jake drives, the boy insists they won't be able to catch her, so they must head to a pharmacy before their timer alarms. The man refuses, believing they can catch Rachel until the timer suddenly alarms. Just in time, he drives to the gas station, where they find Rachel leaving. He speeds up, and just as they're about to reach Rachel, Jake begins to fall asleep. As the car slows down and begins to swerve, Sam tries to keep Jake awake while handling the steering wheel. The boy manages to stop the car and moves the man to the passenger seat so Sam can drive. With no idea of how to drive, Sam pretends he's playing a video game before stepping on the pedal. He continues their chase towards Rachel while trying to drive straight. Simultaneously, he tries to keep his older buddy awake and stabs Jake's leg with a screwdriver. Surprised, a drowsy Jake jolts and sees a plane in the sky, which he mistakes for a dinosaur. Then, Sam speeds up to Rachel and they're now side by side. Just as he's about to ram her off the road, Rachel speeds up and the plane from the other side unexpectedly approaches. In a second, Sam tries to swerve away but gets hit, causing Jake to fully wake up from the accident. Afterward, Sam and Jake check the man in the plane, a pilot named Ellis. The two friends ask Ellis if he has drugs to keep them awake, so the pilot gives them nicotine patches, only because he's never seen a kid like Sam since the epidemic. Feeling grateful for saving their lives, Jake thanks the pilot while Sam returns to the car. Jake asks Ellis if he's seen any pharmacies, but the pilot tries to find a local hospital on a map. Since Jake is familiar with his hometown, he agrees to guide Ellis to the hospital for them to get the drugs. On their way, the younger man urinates while Ellis drives. Seeing how strange the man is, Ellis asks Sam if Jake is his father, to which Sam denies it. The pilot is concerned for the boy because he thinks Jake is an addict. However, the boy mentions they're all addicts. Ellis says he's seen many people throughout his travels across the states but didn't find anyone Sam's age. He then assures them that somewhere out there, an answer will explain the odd phenomenon killing people asleep, so they must find it. Upon arriving at the hospital, Ellis goes to the ICU and finds an assistant named Sarah, along with other people with the same eye bags as them, casually going about their day. Meanwhile, Jake and Sam enter the ER, where they find hospital workers and people like them being treated with drugs. A doctor named Allie approaches them and offers to treat Jake's injured leg. Later, Allie tends to Jake's wound and treats him and Sam with adrenaline. She says the people at the hospital were the last night shift workers before the epidemic, hence their survival. Soon after, she brings the man and the boy to Ellis, who's reading the hospital files. The pilot questions if the deceased patient's times of death are accurate, which Allie confirms. Noticing the unusual occurrences, Ellis reveals that he was piloting his red-eye flight from LA to Newark. Some passengers died when the sleep epidemic happened while they were in Colorado. A doctor on the flight couldn't save them, so they had to emergency land in Denver. The doctor on board noted down the times of death of the deceased passengers, which happened instantaneously at 3:04 a.m. As they arrived at Denver, the city was in hysteria, so they continued to Newark, which was also in chaos. The demise of many all over the news occurred around 3 a.m., which Sam and Allie confirm. However, people died at 3:06 a.m. in Newark, 2-minute difference from Denver. The pilot reveals he flew back to Denver to check the times of those who passed away at a hospital to test a theory. In all the cities of different states he's been to, there was a slight time difference in those who passed away. Discovering a dip in the time, he went to the hospital where he is now, Southern Health Hospital in Houston, Texas, where the time of death is at 3:01 a.m. Ellis discovers that the point of origin of the sleeping phenomena is between Houston and Denver. Allie questions what he'll find in the supposed point of origin, to which he says he'll go west and find out. As the pilot leaves, Allie and Sarah decide to join him. Unexpectedly, Sam wants to tag along, but Jake prefers to stay at the hospital. Allie tells him he doesn't have much time to live since they haven't slept in days. After Allie and Sam's persuasion, Jake eventually gives in and joins them. Before they head on to their adventure, Sam and Jake urinate while they admit they're scared of what's in store for them. However, their eagerness to find an answer to the odd phenomenon doesn't stop them from beginning their journey. Previously, on day 1 of the sleep epidemic, Allie tries to resuscitate her patient when she sees another doctor, Lex, trying to save another person. Allie stops and stares at Lex for a moment until the other doctor snaps her out of it. On day 2, the night shift hospital workers are still awake due to the many people dying. Allie sees her colleagues calling 911 to no avail while others call the relatives of those who passed away. On day 3, with no clues on how the strange decimation occurred, Dr. Curtis briefs the doctors that they need to communicate with other facilities for a breakthrough. Later, Allie sees Lex leaving the hospital, which infuriates Allie. On day 4, Allie tries to contact Lex using radio frequencies. Unfortunately, she doesn't succeed. On day 5, the present day, the group heads west intending to pass by every hospital on their way to the point of origin. Jake feels sleepy, so Sarah gives him and the boy ghost peppers to help them stay awake. When the three take a bite, they yell from the spiciness of the peppers. A while later, they see a cloud of smoke where the next hospital is located. There, they find the hospital burned down, but since they can't go through the records of the times of death, they decide to move on. Suddenly, Jake remembers a coroner's office behind a police station nearby where they might be able to find some medical records. Doubtful, Allie doesn't believe him until Sarah confirms the man's claims, so they head there. Arriving at the police station, the group spots partygoers leaving the station. Confused, they look inside and see a rave going on. Upon entering the rave room, they see many people taking drugs and partying to the blasting music. Just as they're about to enter the coroner's office, a heavily drugged man named Ponoko unexpectedly blocks their way and forbids them to enter. Frustrated, Ellis threatens the men, so Ponoko crazily laughs and lets them in. Inside, the group wanders around, except Sarah, who longingly watches the rave. She tells Allie she wants to dance, but the doctor refuses to let her go, worried for her safety. Sarah begs her friend to let her go to the rave because she hasn't had a break since the start of the epidemic, until Jake interrupts, saying he can accompany Sarah. Eventually, Allie allows them to go as long as she doesn't ingest anything from the party. Immediately, Sarah excitedly brings Jake to the rave, where they party and dance together. In the coroner's office, Allie and Ellis notice the files are outdated, realizing the updated records are in the coroner's laptop. Then, Sam goes to the morgue where he sees a man go inside the freezer and sleep to end his life. Meanwhile, Jake suddenly hears Megan, and when he turns around, he sees her in the distance. When she runs away, the bewildered man follows her through the crowd. At the office, Sam tries to recover the old password of the laptop to set a new password. Finally, he successfully accesses the database with the help of his companions. As Jake wanders around, he reaches the basement, where he meets a woman redistributing confiscated drugs. The man realizes the party is in the police station because that's where the drugs are stashed away. Afterward, the woman serves him meth and shows him his glass pipe, confusing him because he accidentally broke it several days ago. She then blows the meth onto his face, causing him to run away. Concurrently, Allie and Ellis learn that the records of death of those who died in the coroner's office database are different, indicating that the point of origin is somewhere else. Ellis suspects it's either north or south until Allie realizes they have 2 points. Discovering the time ticked back up, Allie calculates their final destination by lining up the 2 points together. At the party, Sarah's fun is interrupted when she can't find Jake, who coincidentally falls to the floor near her. The man crawls through the crowd and into a jail cell until his little sister appears again. Jake's hallucinations get ahead of him again when the jail cell turns into Megan's room. His half-sister asks if he's coming to their Thanksgiving celebration with his stepmother Mary, Megan's mother. Tired of pretending to like Mary, he bluntly refuses because his stepmother doesn't like him. Megan then says she can read his mind and reveals he's thinking of how much he wants Mary to be dead instead of his mother. Stunned, the man is left speechless, while Megan provokes him further by comparing him to his father, who Jake profoundly despises. This causes Jake to get mad, making the little girl cry until he snaps out of his mind playing games. Meanwhile, Sarah begins to feel sleepy, but she realizes her backpack of adrenaline and peppers is missing. Panicked, she searches for it but unfortunately doesn't find it. However, she doesn't spot her spilled bag of peppers nearby. Later, Jake stumbles upon a visiting room and sees Megan on the other side. He talks to her on the phone, and she comments on how he likes to use jokes to cover his true self. Megan reminds him of their father again, which angers her brother. He recalls when his father ruined his mother, who wanted child support her ex-husband owed her. Instead of using the money for child support, Jake's father always bought gifts for Mary, purchased a new truck every 6 months, and brought Jake's mother to custody to spite her. On the other end, Megan cheerfully mentions that his mother won the case. However, her brother says his mother never recovered, and his father convinced everyone that she was crazy. The little girl provokes him again, making her brother rage until he recoups himself from his hallucinations. Soon after, Allie figures they have to head to Dallas. Then, Jake finds himself in his sister's blanket fort and sees his dead sister, who hugs him, and he emotionally reciprocates. Suddenly, he wakens from his imagination and sees himself hugging Sam, who tells him to let go. After the man regains his composure, Sam leads him to a dead Sarah, who fell asleep at the party as Allie stares at Jake in distrust. Leaving the police station, Jake explains that he's been having hallucinations due to the drugs, but Allie infuriatingly scolds him for not watching Sarah. Before Jake enters the car, Ellis kicks him out of the group because of what happened to Sarah. Sam intervenes, refusing to leave his friend behind, and assures the 2 other adults that it wasn't Jake's fault. Eventually, they let Jake stay with them, and the man thanks Sam for saving him. On their way to Dallas, they hear a transmission on the radio stating they must head to Austin if they want to have the chance to sleep again. Allie is surprised to hear the news and wants to head there, but Ellis is set on his mission to Dallas. So Allie goes her separate way, and Ellis gives her a signal tracker in case she wants to rejoin them. Not long after, Jake and Sam decide to join Allie to help her after feeling remorseful for what happened to her assistant. Afterward, Ellis leaves and the trio head their way to Austin.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.